For more information about Algebra and Geometry EOC prep using ExploreLearning Gizmos, please contact Corey Peliquin, ExploreLearning Project Manager for the School District of Hillsborough County. This informational video will help Algebra and Geometry EOC teachers understand the ExploreLearning Gizmo resources that are developed and different ways that they can be instituted for Algebra and Geometry EOC prep in their classroom and beyond. Two lists have been developed for the school district, one for Algebra and one for Geometry. Included on this list you will find the frequent missed benchmarks in ranked order, as well as suggested gizmos that have several accompanying materials already built for teachers to capitalize upon. You'll note with the Geometry EOC remediation list that there are 3 gizmos noted on the bottom: sine and cosine ratios activity A, sine and cosine and tangent ratio. These particular gizmos look a little bit different in terms of the lesson materials compared to the others. You'll want to possibly take a look at these if you are going to be using them and modify the sheets by adding spaces for students to work upon. They're what we call some of the classics that are still left. Already done for you is a list of benchmarks that have been analyzed using formative assessment data out of Achievement Series. These are the most frequent missed benchmarks by students. These benchmarks are listed in rank order. You'll also notice not only on this algebra example are the benchmarks listed in ranked order from lowest performing to highest performing, but there already are gizmos paired for teachers. How that was done is by browsing gizmos correlated by benchmark listings on the website. By visiting www.explorelearning.com, you will find a Browse Gizmos button off the top blue bar on the left. Clicking on that, you will find Academic Standard. When you click on Academic Standard, find Florida in the top middle row. By clicking on Florida, you will see Mathematics Standards on top and Science Standards below. MA 912A would symbolize an algebra standard versus MA 912G for geometry, or MA 912T for trigonometry. Click on the corresponding buttons found under the Next Generation Sunshine State Standards to reveal all of those standards, and just browse the listing for the particular standard that you are looking for to see if there is a gizmo already correlated for it. That is how these particular lists were developed. You'll find suggested gizmos listed here for algebra as well as geometry. For every single gizmo except for the 3 listed on this geometry listing under Lesson 5, you will find a student exploration sheet, an answer key to the student exploration sheet, a teacher guide, a vocabulary sheet, as well as 5 assessment questions. Let's take a moment to review some of the resources that are already built for math teachers to capitalize upon. Hopefully you will find it time-saving to have many of the lesson materials already developed for you. Feel free to take bits and pieces as you wish, as these documents are available in both PDF format as well as Word, where you can just copy and paste into a new document if you so choose. With several of the gizmos, you will find a student exploration sheet, an answer key, a vocabulary sheet, as well as the teacher guide for every one of the gizmos in the algebra, as well as every one but 3 listed in the geometry EOC prep listing. To refresh your memory in the teacher guide, within that teacher guide there's a suggested lesson sequence section, and oftentimes teachers will use the discussion questions that are already pre-built for them. The student exploration sheet starts with prior knowledge questions, which sometimes can be beneficial in using for bell work or exit ticket questions, as well as a gizmo warm-up section. This is where students will first start to utilize the gizmo themselves. Keep in mind that activities A, B, and C are built upon cognitive complexity, so as students move through each one of those activities, take note of how the questioning techniques are, as well as the higher order thinking and the problem solving. One recommendation is to open up the student exploration sheet in Word document format. You can highlight some of the questions found at the very end of activity A and paste them into a separate document. Go back to activity B, highlight a few of those questions and paste them into the separate document you've created, as well as activity C, same process. What you'll have are scaffolded questions that are built upon cognitive complexity or higher order thinking, hot questions. So take advantage of the sequence already pre-built for you. Keep in mind also every Gizmo has a screen capture button, a copy screen, as well as the little camera feature noted here on the screen. This is good for teachers to use if they want to manipulate the Gizmo themselves and build some of their own teacher-created materials, student worksheets, and such, or maybe even take some snapshots and include onto a PowerPoint as part of their mini reteach lesson. But also keep in mind that students, when they access the Gizmo, will also see these two buttons. Some teachers are asking students to take snapshots of their Gizmo or the copy screen button in order to provide evidence of their work, in order to provide examples and non-examples of problem-solving based Gizmos. Keep in mind that with every Gizmo, there are 5 assessment questions underneath the Gizmo. As we scroll up the page, you'll see those 5 assessment questions with answer options that students can answer. At the very bottom, there is a Check Your Answers button, which, when the students do so, will reveal an individualized report that not only is graded automatically, but also provides students with instant feedback. This instant feedback is provided whether they get the question correct or incorrect, and notice that the explanation is provided there for them. There's a great opportunity here in having students work back through some of the problems that they've gotten incorrect as they persevere with problem solving. You as the teacher will find assessment results for those students who have taken the assessment questions for that Gizmo. Just go to the class tab that the student is enrolled in, find the Gizmo that's on the class tab, and click on Assessment Results. By doing so, that will reveal the full listing of all of your students, and you can do a quick line item analysis through each one of those questions. Remember that you must have the Gizmo assigned or added onto the class tab in order to see assessment results. Otherwise, you will not receive these assessment results. In reviewing through the lesson materials available, consider using the teacher guide, particularly the suggested lesson sequence section, to gain an idea of different concepts or topics and how it can be retaught through a mini lesson. Also take advantage of the discussion questions that are already pre-built, which can be used for bell work for remediation, also something that can be infused throughout a reteach or mini lesson. Some teachers even use these discussion questions as they develop their exit ticket or exit question card. The student exploration sheet has 2 particular pieces that can be utilized: prior knowledge questions that can be used for bell work, as well as the different activities. Activities A, B, and C, built upon their cognitive complexity, could be great to be mashed together by the teacher in editing those documents for whole class instruction. You also could print an activity or all of the activities together for students to utilize in a computer lab, putting 1 student at 1 computer or 2 students at 1 computer to work collectively together, individually recording their information on the Gizmo worksheets. Students also have access to Gizmos at home, so they can pull up ExploreLearning.com on the computer or their iPad, access one of the Gizmos, and pull up the activities A, B, and C to do self-guided tutorial themselves. This also could be something that is delivered through ELP. The Gizmo itself has a variety of different things that it can be utilized for, teacher-created lessons being one of them. Whole class instruction is one of the most popular ways district-wide that teachers are utilizing Gizmos. So think about how the Gizmo can help you in reteaching or augmenting a lesson, with emphasis on the SMPs. Utilize the Gizmo for class discussion, or build your class discussion around the use of the Gizmo. Possibly infuse the gizmo into your current lesson to aid as a visual. Another popular way that teachers use gizmos is through an inquiry style or inquiry activity with higher order thinking questions that are infused, some of which could come, again, from the teacher guide in the suggested lesson sequence section. Finally, some teachers and schools are utilizing gizmos through EOC Infuse, particularly in small groups or pullouts. Let's talk about two different methods of how this can be delivered. The first method is teacher-centric, and then we'll switch over to student-centric. In this method, the teacher utilizes the gizmo and shares usage with students in order to chunk the gizmo activity and prepare a teacher-created lesson for whole class instruction. This can be spread out through a variety of different days. Preferably, a teacher will want to remediate over one benchmark over 5 consecutive school days, Monday through Friday. Broadcast the gizmo using the LCD projector that's hooked to either a computer workstation or a laptop that can be acquired at the school. If you have access to an iPad and happen to have the particular dongle, that also can work too. Have students take control of using the gizmo and share that usage with students during problem solving and discussions using a wireless mouse. What this might look like is a sequence of Monday through Friday, whereas you're doing small bits or pieces of using the gizmo. You'll see the task is in black and the development or the pieces used in order to create the task is in red. Pose a question to students to work on individually through bell work, which the teacher could get from either the discussion question section of the teacher guide or the student exploration sheet, which has prior knowledge questions at the very beginning, or even from the activities. On Tuesday, have students take that question back out or questions that they worked on Monday and pair them up, have them review their answers together, and this time making any modifications to the answer to bring it into the correct state and building upon it, providing justification for the answer, reasoning, and possible examples. Again, two pieces that the teacher can use to help aid in this process is the student exploration answer key. Of course, if they've taken questions directly from the student exploration sheet, that would be a benefit, as well as the teacher guide section, which has a mathematical background section if it's a math gizmo. At the end of Tuesday, the teacher may want to either collect those or take some snapshots of good examples as well as non-examples of student work. Wednesday, when students come in at the very beginning, review select questions and provide those exemplars as well as non-examples to critique whole class. This will help students not only see what a good answer should look like and the corresponding components that are needed, as well as non-examples. You may also want to follow up with a short mini lesson using the gizmo. On Thursday, provided the opportunity to continue that mini lesson and reteach using the gizmo, as well as provide students with an essential question or something from the curriculum, some sort of assessment question that they will be working on. Possibly that could come right from the gizmo with the 5 assessment questions that are found right below the gizmo. Set the expectation that students will be working on this when they come in immediately on Friday in order to increase instructional time. Friday, when students come in, provide them with the opportunity to work on this essential question or this assessment question in order to gauge their level of understanding, with emphasis on explaining, justifying, and providing examples to accompany their work. At the end of Friday, the teacher can then take the student's work and divide them into 3 piles, one of which is the student does not get it and needs more assistance, kind of gets it and has just a few things to clarify, or has mastered this particular benchmark and is ready to move forward. Taking a look at the student side of the platform of ExploreLearning Gizmos, and now switching our focus to a student-centric model, notice that students will only see a student exploration sheet and a vocabulary sheet on their side of the platform. They do not have access to the student exploration sheet answer key, and they do not have access to the teacher guide. Knowing this, and also knowing that each one of these is developed in the PDF format as well as Word format, provides students access to using Gizmos. And how they will do that is through you as the teacher. The teacher will have a class code associated with that particular class tab. The class tab code is unique to that particular class tab, so do not give that to all of your students. but only to those students that belong within that class period or class tab. Students can access Gizmos 24/7 at school and at home, on a computer, on their iPad even, so take advantage of that learning time that occurs outside of your class hours. Offer students individual practice using the student exploration sheet that's already developed for the Gizmo, as well as the 5 assessment questions that accompany each of those Gizmos. You've been provided with a list for algebra with the lowest performing benchmarks, as well as geometry. You also may provide students with specific Gizmos based upon either teacher level data, grade level data, or even student level data themselves. More information about how to complete this process using a formative assessment, pulling that data in Achievement Series, and ranking it can be found on the Hillsborough ExploreLearning blog. That web address is www.explorelearning.com/Hillsborough. Once on the blog, just click on the YouTube channel and look for the video called FCAT Prep Using Gizmos. You also can encourage students to work from home or in the Library Media Center before school and after school. And remember again, Gizmos are available on the iPad, so if students have access to an iPad at school or at home, that certainly is a way that they can do that. So in utilizing this resource that's already developed, students can open it in PDF document format, print that out, and then write their answers in the space provided. They also could, within PDF with the latest version of Adobe Acrobat Reader, can insert text right on the PDF itself as to not adjust or modify any of the formatting. It's also available in Microsoft Word format, so students could open it in Microsoft Word and type right on the document itself. And if all else fails, have the students open the PDF version on their computer, work through their Gizmo as it's prescribed using the student exploration sheet, and write their answers on a separate piece of notebook paper. The other way in which students can utilize this is by combining the Gizmo activities through courses that are being developed at schools, some of which are Saturday school or boot camp style or boot camp format, where you have a 2 to 3 hour block for students to work in preparation for Algebra and EOC prep. A good rule of thumb from start to finish, from the time a student sits down to the computer to the time that they're done, for one particular activity, you may want to allow 50 minutes in order for them to complete that. Keep in mind to always be thinking about using Gizmos alongside and with best practices in our content and pedagogy. For example, higher order thinking questions are great to have scribed prior to a whole class instruction using a Gizmo. You could do a quick Google search like I did, higher order thinking questions in a math classroom. This happens to be from a web page of Dairy Village School that has 150 plus essential questions for math broken down by concepts within the mathematical discipline. Very useful guide. The final piece that I will leave for you is some of the best practices that have been identified by high school math teachers and middle school math teachers who are using Gizmos district-wide. These are what they believe to be some of the key pieces in having success in using Gizmos through whole class instruction to deepen students' conceptual knowledge.